No one else can change the world like you can. You're irreplaceable. So don't waste a single second. Your life is so valuable. Get off your butt and get going now. I appreciate you listening to this podcast. Now let's get straight into it. Hey everyone, my name is Caleb Stillians and I'm a professional guide in Alaska. I've been guiding for 7.5 years now, and we're gonna go over how to pack for a black bear mountain hunt. And this is gonna be a 3-part series probably. We're gonna start with what you wear on the body, give different options. Next one we'll go into pack, and then the third one we'll go into firearm selection or bow selection. So we'll hop right into it. So what we're gonna start is with our feet. So we got things to consider. What we want to do is make sure we have a waterproof boot and that it has some level of stiffness on the foot, because we will focus on a mountain hunt. So this is going to be applicable for most out west hunts. My overwhelming experiences in Alaska, and this is mountain hunts. This is not coastal hunts, because what you wear on the coast and when you're more stationary is totally different than what you're going to wear and pick when you're on top of a mountain doing that more spot and stock move style of hunt. So at the feet, what we want is we want a boot that gives us a little bit of bend, because we're not going to get into like the super high hippie trippy stuff, but we are also going to be going elevation, and when we get this bear, we're going to have weight on our back. And if we don't have a stiff enough boot and it's bending too much, it's not going to give us the support on our feet and our ankles that we want. So we want somewhere between a 6 to a 7 stiffness rating, in my opinion. If you really don't like walking in stiffer boots, you can go down to a 5. If you like a more stiffer boot, you can also go up to like an 8. So a flip-flop is going to be a 1. We can just bend however you want to. And then a 10 is going to be where you can't bend your foot. Something kind of like a scrappa, a mountaineering boot. So we want to be in that middle range, middle to high range. So then when we do have a heavy pack, we can still walk and not worry about bending our foot too much. Or we have enough where we can really tighten our boots up and stiffen our ankles up. So good options. Crispy makes a great boot. There's a Dedito boot. Luca is a good option. There's Shernay makes some good boots, and there's several other options. As long as it fits in that category of being stiff enough, and that you go out and try it before you go, because what's going to happen is every boot's going to fit people's foot differently. So I have a wider foot that's shorter. So I'm about a 10.5, but I'm a 10.5 wide. So if I have a boot that fits more narrow, it's going to hurt my foot like I'll get out. And then that's also, each boot, the way it's shaped is going to rub your foot differently. So your heel, how your heel is shaped is going to be what kind of boot you need. So you might get a Kinatrack, and it's the way your foot sits in it is like they rub my back of my foot. The way my heel is shaped, it rubs it bad. However, I have guys that come out hunting and it fits their foot perfect, and they have 0 issues. So it all depends on who you are. So you really got to go out and test those boots and see how they rub your feet and make the decision based off that. That's something that you can't really cheat. You just have to spend the time and the money to figure that out. Because if you don't, if your feet are blistered and are really hurting, that's just going to make everything else suck. So take the time, figure that out. Another consideration is how big your calves are, and that's going to dictate how tall you want that boot to be. So I have pretty fat calves. So if I get a too tall of a boot, it starts to rub on the bottom of my calf, and I start to get a blister there. If you got skinnier calves, you might not have that problem. So that's going to be something else you need to consider, is how tall can I go up before it starts rubbing my calf. And you can get socks, and that helps a little bit, but it's still going to cause that weird rub point. So really pay attention to that, how high it fits on your calf, and that's going to be a big deciding factor. Now on socks, I personally wear whatever, to be honest. The Kinatrack socks work pretty good. I like them. The only problem with them is when they get wet, they wet for a while because how thick they are. So there's going to be a catch-22 with everything, right? So the thicker and the more padding the socks are, the longer they're going to take to dry out. Which if you're going on a 5-10 day hunt, that won't matter too much. What affects me is if I'm out there for like back-to-back hunts, sometimes you're not able to get back out of the field and do your laundry and dry and all that stuff. So you might not have to worry about that because you might just be able to bring a pair of socks for each day. But that is something to consider, is how thick it is, how tall it rides up the calf. If you have a low cut boot, you might not need a sock that comes all the way up. Like there's some really tall socks out there. So really play around with what you like and what you need and what fits your body the best. Recommend the Kinetrack socks. I just put a bunch, just socks are socks, as long as you don't buy cheap, crappy China ones. Going to the gaiter now. Gaiters are really important. What it's going to do if you got to cross a creek or if you're walking in wet grass, that's what's going to keep your boot and your bottom of your pant leg dry. It gives you that waterproof layer from your boot up to your knee. So it's so important. If you don't wear gaiters on your hunts, you're really selling yourself short. And this is coming from experience. Like I've done it without gaiters when I first started out because I didn't know up from down back then, and it was not fun. And then once you wore gaiters, I was like, this is nice. Like I like this a lot. So good options. I personally like outdoor research gaiters. They're pretty lightweight. I usually wear them out about every season, but I'm also spending 7 months in them walking nonstop. So that's just something to consider. Those are my favorite. There's other ones that make great gaiters. What I would try to watch out for is how thick they are. One pair of gaiters I do not like is Kinetrack gaiters. They a little bit thicker. They heavier. So it's just personal preference at the end of the day. Figure out what you like. I recommend Outdoor Research. There's several other companies that make them. So check those out. I would definitely get the tall ones. I've seen some guys come out with like the half gaiter, and I think those are kind of silly. You might as well get the full length one, in my opinion. Going to pants and long johns now. Find what fits your body really well on long johns. I personally like the ones that have a drawstring a lot, because sometimes what will happen is if you're in the same pair of long johns for a while, that elastic can stretch out and then it will start to slide down your butt, and that's super annoying. So I like one that has a drawstring that's thick but not overly thick. My legs don't really get that cold, so I don't go too crazy on long johns, especially on my bottom. So I wear a pair of Under Armour cold gear that's got a drawstring on it, and that's what I've worn for a long time. And I'll keep on wearing them till they wear out, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to wear next. But there's a lot of companies that make great options. QU, Force Light, all the way down the list. Like, just great companies. I would say, kind of as I get older, I really focus on buying from companies that are hunting related. I used to buy some like Patagonia and Arc'teryx, which they make great stuff, but the problem is that they are anti-hunting. So why would I spend my money with a company that, if they could, they would stop what I do for a living and what I love to do? So I would rather find companies that support what I do and spend my money with them. So now going to the belt. I'll show you the belt that I actually wear. I have it's a Groove Life elastic belt. It's pretty nice because during the season you lose weight. I usually don't gain weight, and it's pretty easy to tighten that up. And then it's somewhat stretchy, so it doesn't really dig into your side like other belts will. So that's the one that I wear. Pretty good, great option. I wouldn't get too stressed out about it. Just make sure that the belt that you do have when you have your pack on Sometimes that pack will ride on top of your belt, that it's not cutting into your back or your body in any way. So moving to the pants, I personally like the Fjallraven G1000s. They're my favorite pant. I'm biased. I've worn them for a long time. I like pretty much everything about it. The only complaint that I have is that it doesn't have a right back pocket. And that's it. Everything else is great. They're stretchy. I got full range of motions. The pockets are great. When you're looking at a pair of pants to buy, because you don't just have to buy what I get, things to consider is a range of motions, obviously, because if you're in the mountains, you need to be able to move your leg up and down. The pockets, the way they cut, especially the pant pockets, like the hip pockets, it needs to be outside the pant tube, like where your leg goes, because if the pocket space is inside the pant tube, then it takes away your hip space, and it can get real annoying, and that item can rub against your leg. Really, it's a big factor the bigger thighs you get. I have huge thighs, so that's something that's super annoying. If a pant does that, I'm like, these are garbage, get rid of them. If the pant has that outside pocket, it makes a big difference. Another reason why I like them is that they thicker fabric in the front of the leg, and that makes a big difference if you're going through like briars, brush, devil's club, all of that stuff. It kind of helps those needles not to poke through and get you. Well, if you're in like a super lightweight pant that's in the front, those things just penetrate straight through and get you pretty bad. But that's just something to look at and consider when it comes to pants. There's a lot of great options. Force Light makes one that's pretty similar to that, and then there's several other options. So just get the pants. Make sure they're comfortable, they fit you well, they're not too long on the leg, and just all those different options is all things to consider. Moving up to base layer. Funny enough, this is a lot what I wear on hunting. I wear something that's kind of lightweight like this, sometimes with a hood, most of the time actually with a hood. And then usually I run a puffy like this. This is a little vest puffy. And then depending on like the weather, then I'll have another puffy that has a long sleeve short that will go over that. And that can really run me most temperatures. If it starts to get cold, or if I stop moving, I have a bigger parka puffy that goes over top of that, and then a rain jacket, which is like a light rain jacket, and then a heavy rain jacket, which is like a Helly Hansen that's all rubber. So that's kind of like what my layers look like. So then as it gets hot, I can strip all the way down. There's a lot of times where it's too chilly to have no puffy, but it's too hot to kind of have one with sleeves. So then this can kind of be what I strip down to. If it gets really hot, I can take all this down and just be in a thin base layer. Why I like the hood is if it's super windy, that really helps you get out of that wind and kind of protect your face a little bit and get under that hood. Everly Stock makes a great one. It's called the Bruno hoodie, I believe. I like that one. And then when it comes to puffy jackets, I mean, there's a lot of companies that make great ones. Look for synthetic. Synthetic is far superior over down when it comes to if you might get wet and drying out and still staying somewhat warm when it's wet. Down is great because it's usually more packable and lighter. But if you're in a climate where there's a good chance of you getting wet, that's where down really sucks. But if you're in like a desert climate, you might not be as stressed out about down versus synthetic. So yeah, that's what I like. Puffy jackets, great companies. QU makes a good one. Sika, like really everything. Just try to buy from hunting companies is what I would recommend if you can. And then going to the head, I'm a big fan of a beanie. I like beanies when hunting. I wear those a lot. Normal ball cap if you want it. I usually have both, but typically if it's chilly at all, we'll just stick with the beanie. Sunglasses, whatever your personal preference is. I wear the loopholes. I get them, so I like them. But really, whatever you want on that. I haven't really noticed animals like paying much attention. I would say if you're going on like your final stalk and getting up close, it might reflect. So maybe take those off. But I've never noticed the difference. But it could make a difference because it's shiny, especially if like an orange lens or something like that. That might attract attention. So maybe if you're going on your final stalk, maybe put those up or something. I honestly don't know. And yeah, that kind of covers a lot. I don't wear gloves a lot, but there's a lot of good options. If I do wear gloves, typically I'll just get like a pair of mechanic gloves and wear those. But I mean, gloves are gloves. Figure out what fits your hands right. If it's going to be cold and wet, I will use ski gloves, usually the OR gloves. Main reason is because the lino slips out, so the glove separates from the neoprene lino. Not neoprene, it's Gore-Tex lino. So that way, if they do get wet, I can throw those gloves, the one that's got insulation in it, in the bottom of my sleeping bag, or hang them up, really, whatever. And then the Gore-Tex lino I can hang up as well to try to dry those out. And that's pretty much it. Don't go too crazy. Like I said, my main layering systems is 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I carry an extra puffy at a dry bag with puffy pants in my backpack. So if it does get a little bit colder, I can get to that extra puffy. And if I can pull those puffy pants on. And then in an emergency situation, I know I always have those that are dry. So if somehow say I'm trying to cross a river and I fall in, at least I know I have those in a dry bag that I can get out of those wet clothes and get into something dry to fight hypothermia. So that's pretty much my apparel get up. And yeah, that's my gear list off that. And then we'll go over the pack on the next episode. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. If you like it, leave a review, share it with people. Yeah, much appreciated. Go check out Outfitter Services, download the app, check out all the hunts we have on there. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later.